For 3, 2, 1, and go. And we're live. Hello, everybody. I'm Endo, and today I'll be having an amazing guest. So before we jump into our live stream, I just want to do a bit of an introduction. For those who didn't know me, I do the Bitcoin Walk. It's a weekly meetup where people gather for a walk and talk about fixing the money and fixing the world. We learn freedom tech, we test stuff. There's a lot of testing that needs to be done because those things are not immediately intuitive, but there's always somebody in the community who understands it better. So, it's a great way to learn Bitcoin, to learn Noster, and to make friends, and to go for a walk and catch some fresh air. And that's actually how I got to meet the incredible guy I'm having as a guest today, Shadrach from Archipelago Foundation. Shadrach, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So yeah, I figured that since we're doing our walks every Saturday, and there's something for the people who are online also. I'll do this thing called Walk the Talk show. So it's a 1 hour on Thursdays, 1 hour stream of me just rambling with people I met on my way, and you happen to be one of them with whom I had a great conversation. Um, yeah, I figured that there are a lot of people out there who are probably interested in Bitcoin, or going down the rabbit hole, and maybe thinking that there is nobody else, like they're the only one left in their town, and they want to meet somebody. So I do recommend this Bitcoin Walk format. It's very different to a traditional bar meetup or a restaurant. You just go and you have conversations where you're in nature, you're open-minded, you don't have constant like nobody's trying to sell you anything. It's just literally a walk, and you can learn a lot by just listening to other people's conversations as well. We have this thing that brings us together, so it should be a nice way for everybody to start. Very low entry barrier. People do that around the world. Also in Austin, I think before we met in Madeira, you've been to some Bitcoin walks in Austin. Is that right, Shadrach?
Yeah. I grew up in Austin. So yeah, the Austin walks are great. That's kind of where a lot of our team is based, also is out of Austin. So that's a
Yeah,
really good stronghold for Bitcoin and freedom tech.
fantastic. I've been in touch with some of you guys, and I'm a member of the group as well. So I've been kind of following what's cooking. But I'm glad we have this time now, so you can tell us a little more about Archipelago Foundation and everything else you're doing in terms of freedom tech. So let's dive right into that. I've got the website. Let me just bring that up quickly, and maybe you can talk us through the idea of Archipelago, like the mission and whatever Archipelago Trust, because this is a trust, right? That's
Yeah. It's specifically a foundation trust. One of the things we noticed was the current funding model for freedom tech had some caveats. If you create a 501c3 in America, you're basically signing a contract with the government that you're going to follow all their rules in order to allow people to not pay taxes on money that they donate. You have to be very explicit about what you do with the funds. So basically, if your 501c3 funds a project, you have to expose who is being funded. So you're basically doxing your developers by doing that. So after the Samurai case, we were really concerned with that, and so we wanted to create a way of doing fully anonymous freedom tech funding. So basically, if you donate to the foundation, you don't get any U.S. tax credits or anything like that. But another thing is that's U.S. based, and technically, I don't know how other people get around it, but it's pretty specific that what you're doing has to benefit the United States. So I know I'm working with one, Bitcoin for the Arts, and like if we do stuff with Europe, we have to show how it helps the United States. So it's kind of a weird situation. So this is this is a non-location specific foundation. It allows people from around the world to donate anonymously, and then what we do is specifically the foundation is working on interoperability, because ultimately it doesn't do any good to have freedom tech that exists in a walled garden. So we really want to find projects that are fulfilling a role in the freedom tech space, but then help them to keep their standards open and their protocols open. So if someone's created a really good product, but it doesn't work with the other products, what we want to do is be able to provide them support and funds to be able to integrate that into the wider freedom tech community.
Amazing. So when you're talking about that, I'm thinking like a little bit maybe open sats come to mind. Some kind of a grant structure where you have money flowing in. But I appreciate the aspect that this is anonymous as well. So it respects privacy more than anything. So that's very good. Shadrach, I know you sent me the demo link. Should we jump into that?
Yeah, sure. So the one of the principal projects from the Archipelago Foundation is Archipelago. So this is kind of where we ended up. Well, we needed funding to make this project, but we also really wanted to make sure that Net for Sats is a good example. Like, we want to work with them very closely to integrate Net for Sats into Archipelago. Yeah, let's let this run for a second.
Welcome, Node Runner.
Okay.
We like to be dramatic.
It doesn't get more cypherpunk than that. I can't imagine that happening. I'm going to revisit that, so I'm definitely getting that that companion app as well. Okay, and straight, like, no beating around the bush. You're just setting the mesh network. Next step.
Yeah. So, and the first screen was the companion app. So on your Android device or Graphene device, you can fully control your node from the Graphene app. It's a really amazing interface. It's beautiful, and you can also use it as a remote control. So, like, you pull this up on your computer, but then with your companion app, you can actually move the mouse and use it like a remote control. One of my goals for this was that when you this is kind of the console for your whole home, for home automation, for your Bitcoin wallet, for your Wi-Fi. Archipelago can control your OpenWRT router. It can install Net for Sats. And so I really wanted it to be like, you plug it into your TV. So you're sitting in your living room, you're able to, through Archipelago, you're able to watch decentralized movies. There's like a kid's YouTube on Noster that works on Archipelago. And you can actually, like, use your phone as the remote control. So that's what the very first thing that said install the companion app. The second thing mentioned which device that it detected. So that, as far as LoRa devices, there's Reticulum, there's Meshtastic, and there's MeshCore. So really, depending on what is available in your local community, you can pick which firmware you flash. So that in America, Meshtastic's very popular. When I went to Europe, MeshCore, like in Ireland, all of Ireland is covered with MeshCore. You can speak to the entire island. You can also, I noticed it was able to ping over to the mainland as well, over in Manchester and Liverpool. So really good MeshCore coverage in the UK and Ireland. Same with Switzerland and Poland and Prague. We're pretty much, Europe is pretty much all MeshCore, where we've got a lot more Meshtastic, I think, in the US.
That is amazing. That's super cool. So you're telling me basically, for those who need a little more explanation, and maybe I'm one of them. Does that mean that basically when internet goes offline, this mesh network will still maintain, like, be there, and people will still be able to rely on it and then communicate?
Yes, ultimately we want a backup for the internet. So we're trying to create a new layer for the internet where we are not dependent on corporations and telecommunication companies and government permission to be able to run our communities. So the idea is you could install this in your community, and then now you've got like your decentralized ride sharing apps go over alternative networks. They're run by the community, and if the internet goes down, you don't have any disruption in service. So if I land in Madeira and I hail a ride using a fully decentralized ride sharing platform, I'm not necessarily dependent on the internet at all. So
Is that like Ridester?
Yeah, there's Ridester and Drivester, and there's a few different apps working. And again, that's what the foundation is for. Like we don't want to install an app everywhere you go that only works in that city. We want to be able to say, like, Ridester works with the other ones, and anywhere you go, you can use your app to be able to hail a ride.
Amazing, dude. This is so cool. I haven't seen this interface before, so I'm blown away. I love the cypherpunk vibe, and I can see there's, of course, AI is not taking, well, it is in the package, so you have some interface to query your models here. What engines? Is it local LLMs, or what's happening here?
Yeah, so everything uses local LLMs. This is the only screen I'm not super familiar with, but it's basically you can rather than having to go to Reddit and try and figure out how to enable something or configure something, you can go to your AI UI and just ask it, like, my net for Sats is not working. Can you look at it? And it can actually go do a lot of the troubleshooting. But that's my least familiar screens.
Yeah, no worries.
But also we want to use things like Routester so that you can actually use more frontier level LLMs from your Archipelago device. Another really cool thing is with your LoRa device, you can ask your node questions. So you can tell your node, like, hey, can you turn on my security cameras, or what's the best time to grow corn in region 6, all kinds of stuff. It's really, really neat.
That is insane, dude. I love it. We're going to talk about it so much more, but you did mention net for Sats, so I'm going to jump to this tab for a second. That is something that I shared with you the domain. You're well familiar with Tollgate, the initial concept, which is an open source protocol for effectively, as it says, sharing your Wi-Fi and sharing your data for additional, to generate additional stream of income. And I was privileged to meet the guys from Tollgate who built the Tollgate website, and basically I'll share this one as well. And we had a conversation that this software is great. It's Freedom Tech. It still needs a little bit refining. We still need to make the user experience a little more non-technical and user friendly. So that's where I said, okay, let me see if I can do that, and actually work with the guys who built Tollgate to create a more user-friendly, not very technical interface, where you wouldn't necessarily have to rely on logging into SSH console, and you'd have to you could go through this in a faster manner. So that's how the idea of Net for Sats was born. And it's early days. I said, like, okay, I'm basically the first business building on top of Tollgate, which is a nice thing. And it's Freedom Tech. We're playing with this more than it's fun doing, but obviously it's a very cool initiative that is open source, that's free. and we put some crazy amounts here to give us some boost from the community in terms of getting the first Genesis batch of the routers. There's going to be a DIY section as well. So basically, flashing a router, if you're up for it, we'll provide a package where anybody can do that on their own device for free. So we're leaving that, but we've come up with a couple of use cases. I think the one that I'm kind of bullish about is the first one is the screen time management. And very briefly, it's what it says on the tin, basically, that for parents who have kids who tend to spend a lot of time on their devices, if you if you configure your setup, your Wi-Fi setup at home using that for SATs, you can have it created in such way that the access to the internet would be free in, let's say, homework hours. Then after 8, it will maybe cost them something if they want to do whatever they want to do. And then let's say if kids are spending too much time, let's say in the night after midnight, your internet gets really expensive. So it's not blocked. It's not like parental control that this is a hard stop. If you really want to use it, you can, but there's going to be a price you have to pay for that. And that's just one use case. Of course, like most commercial one would be airlines, and I know in the US it's already happening. So like in-flight Wi-Fi, it's pretty much becoming a standard, I could probably say. I don't know, like maybe you can tell me.
Well, if I could interject real quick on the screen time management. So this is an amazing pairing with Archipelago, because with Archipelago, you can create a job board for your house. So your kids are actually able to go to a website, see what jobs are available, pick a job, do the job. When they do the job, they're like, oh, I mowed the lawn. And then the parent scans their QR code, and then the sats go directly to their wallet. And now the sats are available to go purchase internet with.
Amazing. I love that. The jobs board in Archipelago is a great idea. One more thing to add, like those sats that kids have to pay, they stay with the family. They don't go anywhere else. So it's all like creating a mini circular economy in every home, where
Absolutely.
where you, like, if you want to do something, you want to, let's say you have a sibling and they want to buy some internet from you. You say, well, okay, I can send you some sats, but you have to, do me a favor and maybe take out the rubbish or whatever. But it becomes this kind of thing. So I love the fact that Archipelago would have a list of how to make sats as well, and that seems like a natural fit to use Net for Sats as well. Of course.
And you've got camping on there next. Same thing with Archipelago. You can like easily do like a pop-up internet for a festival. It's got Net for Sats built right in. And then the other thing, you mentioned the router. So Archipelago is able to detect your open WRT router, configure it, and install Tollgate and do everything itself. So you can ship them a router that's ready to go, or if they already have Archipelago, they can just plug in an open WRT router and have it automatically configure it.
That is so cool. That's really, really, really bullish on that. Yeah, I mean that's that's something that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, and I'm sure you're already probably using Archipelago or testing it in your place. Tell me, like, what are the biggest challenges? Like, because there's FIPS as well, right? And tell us a little bit more about FIPS. I know the unofficial acronyms of IPs.
Yeah. If you click on the network tab, so what FIPS is it's part of this suite of creating the alternate internet layer that we're looking for. So what FIPS does is every one of your services that's running on Archipelago is able to be assigned its own npub. And then it's reachable over a spanning tree algorithm mesh thing that I'm not super technical on it, but it basically allows you to use any transport layer to get to a resource on the mesh. So it's taken the IP out of TCP/IP, and it's replaced it with FIPS, which is this mesh network. There you go, perfect.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's medium transport agnostic, so it can go over LoRa, it can go over Wi-Fi, it can go over satellite. It doesn't care. What all it needs to know is how to get from one FIPS node to the next to get to the destination where the resource is, whether it be a website or a streaming server or anything lives.
That is quite a revolutionary thing. That when you come to think of that, like you're literally taking all the IPs out, but you're staying. We're still working with IPs, right? Like not IPs, sorry, with Noster. So basically, it's utilizing Noster to identify entities. Can you tell me a little more about how does Archipelago or FIPS for that matter utilize npubs and Noster?
Yeah, so it's using the public-private key pair algorithm that Nostr uses. It's not specifically dependent on the Nostr network, but what you can do is you can publish resources on relays. So you could have like an N site with a FIPS address that's running on a Blossom server, and now you can get to that N site over without using the traditional internet. It will be able to use the FIPS mesh routing to get your computer to talk to the other computer.
Okay, so we're talking about Inside, a Blossom server, and pretty much all the infrastructure that you can build and you can expose business or a website, whatever, without doxing yourself. Like pretty much, paying for every single piece of that with Bitcoin completely anonymously. Is that right?
Yes, that's the goal.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Um, yeah, it's I'm trying to think like the stuff that you're building, what becomes possible because of all those freedom tech solutions that are becoming possible in the months. Like it happens so quickly that you get to see those things. And then you see on the other end, things like in Europe, you got the EU coming up with chat control and the DAC 8 regulation, and yeah, it feels like we are literally forking off and going into building our own universe. We're not asking for permission. Do you have any like what's your stance from being from across the pond on what's Europe look to you like?
I mean, it looks pretty scary, pretty authoritarian. But again, it's when the government owns the roads, they decide what you can do on them. When they own the internet, when they basically run the internet, then yeah, they're going to decide what is allowed and not allowed on it. So we have to be able to create our own systems that operate outside of the traditional government systems. And that's kind of the only future that I see allowing us to remain free is by controlling the means of production, controlling the markets. Open markets is an amazing thing. Ultimately, we need to be able to produce, transport, sell, buy, and use everything from within our own alternative ecosystem. So we typically call that the second realm. That's a common agorist term for what we're creating. So you've got the first realm is using all of the existing systems that are government controlled, and then the second realm are the systems and processes that we are creating to interact freely with one another.
Fantastic. And tell me one more thing, because obviously you need hardware to be able to build a network to use it. How confident are you with like this and how accessible is the hardware that you need to operate something like Archipelago? Is that something you can run on open source software like hardware?
Yeah, we're specifically designing it to run on older hardware, to run on e-waste. I mean, one of the things that the governments and corporations do is they swap out all of their computer hardware every 3 to 5 years. So all of that stuff shows
Yeah.
up on the open market, and really it's kind of like it exits their system. Somebody's buying up all this e-waste, and then they're maybe cleaning it up, selling it on eBay, things like that. But we can be going and collecting all this stuff for our communities. So for you, like in Madeira, like if you were able to collect like 20 or 30 decent servers, 100 old laptops and mini PCs, you've got the hardware to build out a complete alternative infrastructure in Madeira.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think Madeira could be specific because it's a fairly small island. But let's say in the UK, I know there's plenty of e-waste of actually quite a high spec, which should be accessible for a really like nothing or very low prices. So that's great. And what's the best like way to start it? Like, if you want to roll out, let's say Archipelago as your home server, is that something is already accessible to anybody, or is that still in beta and you're still making that more
Yeah,
refined?
we're working on the public alpha release right now. I mean, it should be out any day now. If on the foundation site there is a link to the alpha to be on the waiting list, but we'll be pretty vocal about it when that's available. But yeah, you download the ISO, burn it onto a USB stick, grab. I'm 16 gig of RAM is kind of like where I don't really want to try and work with much less than that, but you could have 8 gig of RAM and just run less services on it. I mean, it will work.
Okay.
But yeah, you can grab like an old Dell mini PC that somebody's getting rid of. Put in you ideally like a 2 gig hard drive or 2 terabyte hard drive is ideal, but you can
Do you
run
run a full? Is that for the sake of running full node?
Yeah. But you can run a prune node. So it automatically detects if you've got a smaller hard drive, and it will run a prune node on there. I'm working on the Monero node port for that as well, so that that Bitcoin is great, but some people want to use Monero for the privacy features. So yeah, I've got Monero and Bitcoin running on a 250 gig hard drive at home. They're both prune nodes. So I mean, it definitely it should be able to handle. It's able to detect what hardware you're running and then adjust what its capabilities are based on your hardware. Is one of our
Amazing.
big goals. Yeah.
Sounds super cool.
Shadrach, there's one more thing I saw in the interface that I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on. It's the Web 5.
Mm-hmm.
What is Web 5?
Web 5 was a standard that Jack Dorsey came out with I don't know if it was called TBD at the time, but it's basically it involves and I don't know, they had different words for it. It's either decentralized identities or some like I'm not sure what it stands for, but DIDs are similar to what Nostr provides. It's an identity that you own. So what we've done, we've implemented the W3 standard DIDs. So if you do you want to pull up the Web 5 screen? Might be easier.
So it's the demo, right?
Yeah. So what we do is we create your DID. It uses the same seed words as Bitcoin. So everything is derived from the same seed word. So when you create a backup of your Archipelago, the same seed words will restore your DID. It will restore your npubs. So yeah, if you go to Web 5 and then scroll down to identities. Yeah, so these are your you can see there's an npub there as well as a DID. So they're derived npubs, and this is also where like you would create an identity for your family. So you might add each of your kids into here. So when they sit in front of Archipelago and they go to watch a movie, they'll log. This is like an NSEC bunker. So they'll log in with their npub and they can comment on videos they watch and everything using their npub. So that's so really DIDs, like we're not sure where it's going. Like Nostr community is fine with npubs, but also we can't rotate npubs. There's different people are working on all the different aspects of that. But then the other thing was mesh networking was part of Web5, and there's one other thing, and I can't remember. But yeah, it's just we like the name. We like to think that like Web5 is the internet that we own, whereas like Web 2 is the traditional the old internet, and then we know
Web 3 we don't talk about. Yeah.
Web 3 we don't talk about.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's awesome. That's really cool. I'll definitely keep an eye on Archipelago, and I've got some old books here that I will use to play around when it's ready.
Yeah.
Awesome, Shadrach. So we're moving across the pond. Well, halfway across the pond, because we're making a stop in beautiful Madeira. We see this spectacular background behind you. So you're coming back to Madeira for the 8th Sovereign Engineering cohort? Is it the 8th edition?
8th, yes.
8th, okay. Cool. Give us a TLDR of Sov Engineering, like what it is, what's it like, who's it for, what you guys do over there.
Yeah, it's an amazing project. You apply, different Freedom Tech engineers from all over the world apply to come to Madeira. It runs on 1 week sprints. So we get together on Monday, we go for long walks, we have barbecues, we kind of like Bitcoin walk. I mean, if everybody, walks around for a couple hours and you strike up different conversations, you get different ideas, it's cross-pollination. One of the issues I think with Freedom Tech is that nobody really knows what each other is doing. And especially with AI now, I mean, people just like go in their little, clod hole and like come out with some amazing thing. And then, it's hard to track what everyone's doing. So Nostr Compass is a really good place that's keeping track of a lot of that. But yeah, it's just a way of collaborating. And then, so Monday is walks, Tuesday is talks, and then Friday is demo day. And so every Friday, everyone in Sovereign Engineering has to show a working programming project that they've done during that week. And then everyone's allowed to ask questions. And it's a really nice way of thinking outside the box, getting familiar with other people's ideas, running your ideas past them, getting critiques and criticisms and stuff on what it is you're working on. It's an amazing project.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I'm obviously been following what's happening in the in Nostr Compass and the Nostr space generally. And so Sovereign Engineering has been one of those initiatives that I respect a lot because of you guys coming over. I had a pleasure of meeting a few Sovereign engineers who came for some walks as well, and those conversations are always very inspiring and interesting. So yeah, let's keep an eye on that. See what else comes out. Like this cohort, what would come out of it? Is there a theme this cohort this time?
It's called YOLO plus plus. So it's kind of anything goes. Like we did hardware networking, and hardware was the last cohort. So that I definitely wanted to be involved with that for specifically Archipelago and mesh networking. And we had a lot of amazing guys. We talked about different low Earth orbit ideas for communication and using balloons for communication. And then also, I mean, FIPS was the big thing that came out of that one is we did some really amazing stuff. So we had we had devices talking over Bluetooth and LoRa, all using FIPS. So it's great potential there.
So the state of FIPS is basically more than just proof of concept right now. Like, is that already something that could be deployed, or is that still early days?
It is. I don't know. I don't know if I would call it like fully ready for mainstream, but I mean, people are using it and deploying it. There are websites, so you can basically npub.fips. If you take your npub and put .fips on the end, the npub of the resource. So every Docker container can have its own npub. Websites can have their own npubs. The server itself can have its own npub. So yeah, we're able to, like, I mean, at the last Sovereign Engineering, I was SSHing into servers that I was managing using FIPS. We had websites that you could access over FIPS. So it's getting really good.
So basically, you would SSH to npub.fips, and then you put in the nseg as a password.
No. So the npub is the resource identifier.
Okay.
Yeah, you would log in still via an SSH password.
Yeah.
But to access the resource,
instead
of using an IP, using an IPv4, IPv6, or even a domain name. So like, instead of going to like website.com to log into my web server, I can go to npub.fips to log into my web server.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be like even more important the moment the internet starts going down and they start cramping down and it's not making things accessible.
Yeah.
So it's a very good backup plan in my opinion. How do you find like general awareness and understanding of freedom tech? You're well traveled. You've got a comparison between Europe and United States. Where do you think like we are, and are you happy? Like, is there a vector? Like, is the bear market just something that we can, it will pass and it will be fine, or does that impact and have some influence on how freedom tech is being propagated and adopted and understood?
That's a deep question. I think the bear market to me feels like, in a way, an attack on freedom tech. I think that when there's a lot of a lot of people are brought over to Bitcoin by the number go up, and we say, like, came for the number go up, stayed for the freedom, stayed for the sovereignty. I think without the number go up, a lot of people have become disinterested. So I think one of the things I've been encouraging people to do is really talk about resiliency, talk about sovereignty. Don't necessarily talk about Bitcoin, and a lot of people now feel like either Bitcoin's over or everybody already who could get rich on Bitcoin is already rich. So you bring up Bitcoin, and they're
too late.
Yeah. So, but I think we can always talk about running your own home server, about getting off of corporate cloud, telling people, like, if you use the cloud, you're just using someone else's computer. Why not use your own computer? Talk about graphene phones and de-Googled Android. Talk about metadata. There's a lot of ways in. I'm more into the freedom go up, sovereignty go up type of thing now. And there's a lot of really easy ways to things like anybody, especially in America, but farmers markets all over Europe as well. I mean, you can go kind of embed yourself in your local farmers market. You can usually set up a stall for very cheap, and then just talk to the community about, have some laptops and running Linux, have graphene phones, talk to them about how whenever you use a credit card, you're asking for permission from a bank. Encourage people to use cash while you can. If you're not using cash, you're not going to notice when you are not able to use cash anymore. So it's a good canary in the coal mine. If you can't use cash anymore, then that means you're fully captured.
Yeah.
I think that's really been my big push is like, let's pivot off of this, orange pill thing and really go for the freedom pills.
I love that. I think that this is something that will resonate with a certain cohort of people, but it will resonate with them. Because on one end you've got us talking about freedom tech, and on the other end you've got the whole big tech AI race going on, and it feels like with XAI and OpenAI and Anthropic and these guys working literally in the Oval Office, so close to the establishment. It feels like this is going to be already is a very powerful surveillance tool. Probably all those companies already have some established bridges with the likes of Palantir and whatnot. So I think personally, I think that we're coming into this weird era of automation, surveillance, and AI put on top of that. Which could be really scary, getting like the moment you've got CBDCs introduced, it might be next to impossible to buy Bitcoin. Like if you don't have cash, you only have CBDC, you could maybe only earn it or mine it, but that's you first need to be next to someone who already has Bitcoin. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on like how this will develop. The kind of establishment cramping down on freedom tech and freedom money with the tools they have. So AI, surveillance, CBDCs. Do you have any scenario that you think it will happen?
I'm not sure about scenarios specifically, but I mean, AI is really important. We shouldn't be dependent on. I mean, sure, use Claude, use the frontier models to make the freedom tech if that's what you want to do. But if they turn off Claude access, I mean, I have one friend I listened to. He had his Claude access turned off, and he appealed, and they just were like, "No, computer says no. You're off." So if you don't have a fallback to go to, you're kind of stuck. And so I really think I've heard we're only about 18 months behind with open source AI. We're 18 months behind the kind of bleeding edge frontier stuff. So what we were doing 18 months ago with the Anthropic or whatever, we can do now with our own hardware. So I think it's really important that we at least spend a little bit of time working with open models, working with using things like Routester and the different ways of utilizing sovereign AI. And then also start like the same thing with the recycled computer hardware. I mean, we're going to start getting a lot more GPUs coming onto the market as people upgrade data centers and stuff. So we need to be poised to be able to run these things. So there's initiatives for like edge data centers on stranded oil and gas. So we've got data centers running in the US that are not on the electricity grid of the government. So they can't even turn off the electricity. I mean, that's kind of needs to be our focus is anytime, and this is kind of, I talk about this periodically, but part of why I moved from Austin, Texas to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to be near the Amish community there. And one of the things about them is they don't want to use anything that can be turned off, because if they become dependent on electricity, on internet, on gasoline, these are things that can be taken away from them, and then their way of life can be destroyed. So they're fine with solar, like, nobody can turn off the sun, hopefully Bill Gates. But yeah, so we need to be kind of following those models. If you're using anything that can be turned off is a point of failure, and we need to be quickly working on ways around that.
That is very interesting. I didn't know that the Amish community aspect, but I think there's a lot of things we could learn from them. Like obviously, Bitcoin Walk is a community initiative, so we're building that as a kind of grassroots, ground up movement that is decentralized, that people do wherever they're based in their local neighborhood. but I see certain patterns that are repeating, and I can see that, okay, that there's something in it, like there's communities that are basically bonding and growing and sticking together, and really enjoying this format, and forming a community. There's trade going on. People start making produce and sell it for sats. So there's some elements of circular economy happening in different places. And I think the Amish case, I may need to look into that. If you got any resource that you wanted to share, that could be really interesting, because I think that the ability of not being dependent is a very powerful thing. Like, it scares the hell out of me, because I've got some friends who are building food trucks, for example, the stuff we discussed when we last met. But their business model relies very heavily on the likes of Facebook and lead generation, Facebook groups and stuff like that. I don't blame them, because that's where the people are. But at the same time, I can see that, okay, well, it's so easy to get the platform from over there. And in my case, I got this. I don't use Facebook for a long time, but I had to do something a while back from this friend of mine, and I logged in and I got this prompt, like a message: "Hey, we need to checkpoint. We need to check that you are you." It's like, nah, thanks, I'll pass.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
And
basically, gone.
I think that's where resilience. I really like resiliency. That like, yes, sovereignty is great, but like a lot of people don't like the word. It's a bit too strong. It sounds like overthrowing governments or something stupid. And whereas resiliency, like if you can't go to the store and buy food for your family, what is your backup?
Yeah.
We need to be building resiliency into everything that we do. And community is exactly where that starts. I mean, if everything goes down, who's the closest neighbor that you can walk to get help from? How do you stay in communication? I mean, what do you have a meeting point every Saturday? Everybody gets together. If normally there's 30 people and one Saturday there's only 2, what happened? Let's go check on them. Let's see if they're okay. That kind of, we really need to be building that into our structures, resiliency.
Absolutely. No, that's super inspiring. Actually, this Saturday, I've done some math recently, and this Saturday is going to be, fun fact, 250th Saturday since the first Bitcoin walk I did.
Wow.
So it's been going on for a while. And yeah, I know
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's phenomenal.
Cheers. Well, to be fair, this is in my case, but I know that Gigi and the guys were doing pleb walks even before me. So it's I cannot take the full credit for that. It's something that's been going on. But then I was thinking about that, actually. The first person who went for a walk and was thinking about Bitcoin was probably Satoshi, because yeah, of course it was Satoshi. So that's it's a funny story and a nice story to kind of come to where we are today. And yeah, it's a bear market, so the sentiment is around the price. It's so it's not great. But what keeps me positive is the fact that every Saturday, some honey badgers somewhere, they gather around and go for a Bitcoin walk and send the pictures of their shoes in the proof of work picture. And that's kind of, beyond, it's on autopilot, and people do see the value they get from those connections that they develop and the knowledge they share. So if you're out there and you haven't been to a Bitcoin walk yet, find one next to you, or just start one in your town. So that's probably a message from myself. Shadrach, I know we've got limited time. I'm going to share the link to Archipelago Foundation here. Where else can people find you, and what are you going to be up to in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much Nostr only. I avoid Twitter as much as possible, but so yeah, it's Shadrach on Nostr. The Archipelago Foundation's there. If you put demo on the front of that, you can see the live demo, which is really fun, and we're working on that really hard, trying to get the alpha release of Archipelago out. But again, that'll just check on Noster.
Do you have a timeline for that?
I would any day now.
Any day now.
It's very, very close. We're testing the new ISOs as we speak, so it should be very soon.
Okay. Tell me, how many people are involved in the project? If that's not a secret.
There's, I would say, yeah. I mean, it's a dozen around the world. So, but primarily, I would say a handful.
Yeah.
But all together with testing and stuff, and that's I mean, it is a fully open source community project. As soon as the alpha's out, I mean, we want people opening feature requests, opening bug reports and issues, and this is something that I mean, anybody can use. You can write your own apps for it. The App Store we're trying to do something a bit like Zap Store, where it's got where it's using Web of Trust to kind of like, I wrote this app, you trust me, and then I run the app, I say, oh, this is great, and then that kind of raises the awareness of the different features that people are making for it. But yeah, I think it's the node I've always wanted for literally, like, as soon as, because I ran home servers in the 90s. So it's kind of weird how we went from owning our own resources to then putting everything on the cloud. And I'm guilty of that. I would walk into companies and like be like, oh, you've got this old server here, you've got a bunch of old laptops, you're installing Microsoft Office off of DVDs and CDs. Like, why don't we move you into the cloud? It'll be so much easier. Well, it's easier for me. Really, I mean,
that's the point. That's the point. Like, everywhere where like it's the same with Gmail or any sort of big tech products where they give you things like almost for free, and the same with Azure or AWS. Like the barriers of entry into that and the costs of entry into this compared to running your own infrastructure at home, a very different, two very different stories. So I can see how they are, making our life more comfortable, but taking away something that belongs to us, which is our freedom and the real sovereignty.
Yeah.
Amazing. Shadrach, there's been a hell of an hour. I love those conversations. Are you coming to the Bitcoin Walk anytime soon?
I'll be there Saturday.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, brother. We'll keep these conversations going, and I think we can close it here. Any last words, wishes for the people who survive until the end?
Just the more I wasn't ready to say this, but basically that's why we're going to win, because nobody expects us to go back for the people who were reticent, or I don't know about this freedom stuff, but like
we cannot save everybody. We want to bring
everybody. Yeah, we can't save everybody, but we're gonna save a lot more people than that. They're expecting us to run away to our citadels and just do our thing with our little like 1% of the population, but we want more than that.
Totally, brother. Thank you so much. Catch you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
See you later.
Bye.
Ciao.